on project evaluation. Okay, so a fairly big chunk is left just on project evaluation. Now, if you thought that this was just my evaluation at the end, it's not. But 3 of the 4 things are just towards the last part of your project. So it's really important that we all we're all really clear on what is required in each section. Now, if you look at the examples of past projects, they all do the evaluation really differently. There's different emphasis on different sections. That's because it depends on the type of project that you do. And it also depends on the amount of page limits that you actually had once you got towards the end of your project. However, the markers place a very heavy emphasis on evaluation. So the more that you can evaluate, the better. If you wish to get a band 6, and this is what I'll talk about, it's a critical analysis. So when we say critically analyse, what do we mean? What's analysis again? No, that's justification. And that's what I do when people are describing it. No, that's describe. What does analyse mean? There's a bit about pulling apart, and Ash is on the money there. When you're pulling it apart, what are you trying to make clear? Thank you, Annika. The relationships, which will inadvertently you'll make a judgment. Pardon? Yeah, relationships. It's about making relationships clear. Now, in your evaluation, it's about your PSE. Yeah? 90% of your evaluation is about your PSE. When you do a personal evaluation, you can include a section on, in terms of my personal evaluation, this is how I felt about the whole major design project, and there is a room for that. But the majority of evaluation is on the PSE, on the project, on the functional and aesthetic aspects of the design. So it's mainly related to the product, system, or environment that you made. Okay? Now, when you're analysing, you're drawing together relationships. So you're saying, this is a functional thing that I said it was going to do, and this is where I see it evident or not evident in my project. Yeah? And you don't just say that's the relationship. You give it the difference between just analysing and critically analysing is also providing a judgment based on that. So, this was a functional aesthetic that I said, this is where you can see it in my project, and I think I have achieved it really quite well, and this is why. Does that make sense, guys? So it's not just make the word critical at the start of it. It's not just making those relationships clear. So it's not just the cause and the effect, because if you're just saying, look, I said it was going to have this function, and see, look here, it does have this function, so I've done well. That's a cause and effect. Yeah, that's this is the case and this is the effect. Because explain is a relational question as well. Yeah, so if you do that, that's where you end up in here. If you just grab the criteria, yeah, your success criteria and say, I've done it, I haven't done it, I've done it, I haven't done it, that's a comparison, yeah? In order to be able to get to the analysis stage for this, you have to be able to say, this is my criteria, this is what I have in my project, and this is the relationship between the two of them, and provide a judgment. You're always better off over providing judgment than you are in under providing it. Yeah, always come to a conclusion and provide a judgment and really make that relationship clear. For a lot of you, this is going to be the utilization of a whole lot of sampler or exemplar responses. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down each of these sections and what I hope to see in your evaluations. The easiest way at this point in time, because we've got a week and a day, is to start, yeah, I know, and I don't have a week and a day left in my life anymore, so I'm assuming I'm just going to be reading major design projects from now till Kingdom Come. So is, following the samples, sending it to me, going, Miss, is this right? Miss, would you add anything to it? I feel like that's going to be the easiest thing at this point in time. Does that make sense, guys? Yep. Okay, so if I go to the evaluation section, and I'll put this screen recording onto Classroom so you guys, actually I'll just put it onto YouTube so you guys can all access it. So in terms of your evaluation, you need to do an evaluation of the relationship between your final product to the design proposal. Now, how you lay it out is up to you, because part of one of those criteria says the relationship of my final product to what I propose to do. So you need to include, in a couple of sentences, what it is that you were proposing you were doing. Yeah, what had you proposed to actually do? Yeah, design something to support, heart rates amongst dogs. What are you actually doing? Trying to develop, a classroom that would meet the needs of 21st century kids, no matter what demographic they were in. Providing my project proposal was around addressing the needs of affordable housing for, first like refugees and those families. You have to give an overview of your project proposal and have it there, and then have your design brief, and then go out and go through and say, criteria of success, like what did you meet and what did you not meet? And you're welcome to have a couple of paragraphs around that. Go and have a look at some of the sample responses and see what works well. But it's really about the visual layout. So, relationship of my final product to design. This is, and you can just include it verbatim. This is what I proposed to do. Here was my design brief for your reference, so your marker's not going all the way back to the front. Yeah, here's what I said I was going to do. Here's what I did. This is the requirements I fulfilled. And now, due to COVID, you probably won't have fulfilled all the requirements. There will be some stuff that you won't have done as well. You don't necessarily have to fulfill absolutely every requirement. Where you can find opportunity to say, look, this requirement hasn't been fulfilled in its entirety, try and find those and be really critical on it. Yeah, if a requirement was partially filled, yes, I've done this, but I could have done this better, talk about that. So say, this requirement, while it's satisfactory as evidenced in my PSE, here is where I could have actually done this and this and this to really boost that, to really champion that particular function. Does that make sense? So there's a heading relationship of my final product to the design proposal. Yeah, and then I go through and talk about those things. There's also the evaluation on individual, society, and the environment. Now, this is a little bit tough for some of us because, it depends on your project. So if you have a look in front of you at this one pager, yeah, this guy has gone and put his aim again, like the aim, I wouldn't put an aim at the top of it. It seems a little bit weird. If you haven't got that one's up here. He goes and talks in, paragraphs about the effect on the individual, the effect on society, and the effect on the environment. He's gone and done paragraphing. I believe it's a he, or it could be a she. No, I think it's a she. She's gone and done paragraphing and gone through and talked about, this is like the effect, and she's put it out in words. Whereas if you look at this one here, so flip over this guy. They've done, rather than writing out paragraphs, this person here particularly has gone, I don't really have time for sentences and I can't really be bothered. I'm going to just click it into positives and negatives, but it still provide a layer of depth. Now, for some of you, that might be an easier process because, for some of us, it might be, it's actually easier to think about positive effect or negative effect, positive effect or negative effect, positive effect or negative effect on, how has my particular product impacted on individuals? How has all consumers or whoever's going to be buying my product, how could it impact on society? How could it impact on the environment? You guys, I believe, will struggle ever so slightly with the environment because, there's not always, some of us haven't exactly made environmentally sound products. So when you get up to environment, if you're a bit stuck, can I rate, again, because everyone has very different product, I'm not going to sit and go through absolutely each individual PSE, but when you get stuck on it, have a look at particularly different examples from exemplar projects and go, oh, actually, I could talk about that, or I could talk about that. I can take that and I can take that. So I would personally, oopsie daisies, I would personally, if it's me, consider putting it in positive and negative, because it becomes easy. If you feel like you're not getting enough information on that and you wanted to just put it in paragraphs, I did particularly print this for that exact reason, to show you that you can do it in two different ways. Again, these both got the same mark because they are both critical. I feel like you set yourself up for success in terms of being critical in positive and negative. It's almost like how we set ourselves up for success with a key for our action plan with providing a judgment, because you already set it up in positive and negatives. You're already like being critical in some way, shape or form. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? Then you need to do your target market evaluation. So you need to find someone who is in your target market. So find someone who is in your target market, and, you know, or if you have a client, this is where you do this. So your target market evaluation can just be, you know, replaced with client evaluation. So if you have a particular client in your project, that person for you has to go and, you know, provide some kind of evaluation. Now with that, you'll notice that this person here has just provided a general feedback and asked some questions and relayed that. Consider, you know, being able to take a snapshot of like a Google form. You know, consider maybe doing that on a Google form, or coming up with some kind of performer. If you're interested in what this looks like, everyone's favorite Sun Safety girl does it. She has a little performer that has all the success criteria, you know, and it says options for comments, and, you know, her client went and ticked them all and crossed them all and ticked them all and crossed them all and said, and it kind of, actually, I might even, for the sake of this, oops, are we still recording? Yeah. I might, for the sake of this, even show you this, because it's not done too badly. Did I even download it? No. Did I? No. Good-o. Like that I'm now, oh God, like that I'm now wasting my time looking at this. But I do want to show you this because this is important. So,
yeah, exactly.
oh my God, hurry up. I'm so glad that this is also on the recording of me just having a fit. And now there's on the recording of me talking about what's on the recording of me. I'm recording it, so I'm posting it to Classroom so you guys can it hear me? I'm like that this is now on the recording as well. Yeah, because I'm recording this, so yes.
Oh, I thought it was just like a recording on the screen, not actually.
Nope, it's audio as well.
Hi. Would I have heard that?
Probably not for me. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Guys, we're going to come back to that, sorry, because I do want to show you. I do want to show you a little bit more about that. In terms of the target market, yes, that can be your client, but you'll also notice as you go through and have a look at some of the exemplar responses, they also have a review from a professional. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. I'm not going to talk about the professional review now. I'm going to talk about that in a moment once we've finished this recording. So you should, once you go and talk to your, you know, someone in your target market or your client, kind of provide a summary and say, look, you know, they were happy, or kind of provide a judgment and wrap it up. That's kind of what we're looking for. In terms of the focus on the aesthetic and the function, you can put it in that section if you so wish. You know, the functional and the aesthetic aspects of the product. Another really cool and interesting way to do it is by providing a picture and annotating like this guy did. So this person over here took the picture and then kind of went and evaluated both the like function and the aesthetic. So they did theirs totally divorced from their target market. Other people take this same section and put it into their target market. As long as this exists somewhere in the world, that's fine. I mean, you can also do it as a table and say, you know, these are the functional criteria and it was met, or these are the aesthetic criteria and it's met. But thereafter, what are the functional criteria that you met? What's the aesthetic criteria that you met? Again, remember, this links back to your criteria for success because it's either functions or aesthetics. Like, that's what we're looking at here. Does that make sense? If you're doing a target market or like, you know, a functional or aesthetic, or if you're talking to a client, like particularly if you're saying, you know, look, my client wore it, my client really enjoyed it, or, you know, I gave it to a professional, they really liked it, they enjoyed it, the more photos, the merrier. Again, that's a really good way to communicate. You know, here is me going through and showing this, or here is me, I am my own client, but here is me showing this to XYZ friends, and they really thought, you know, this was really good, and here is them watching it, like looking at it. And the more photos that you can provide in this really tell that story of that evaluation, if that makes sense. And yeah, this is the professional bit. Find someone who is a professional, and again, like you would with your client or your target market, provide them with the success criteria, yeah, to evaluate, and then kind of say, look, yeah, see, even a professional thought my PSE was good, okay? And in a moment at the end of this, I'm going to talk about who your professional could be. Something really important to consider that's not necessarily in the marking criteria as a nice and beautiful way to wrap it up is a personal evaluation of your project. And this is where you can let COVID go to the nines, yeah, and talk about your personal evaluation of your project. And this is where you aren't just limited in talking about the PSE, but you have an opportunity to talk about it because it is not about my prac and my folio. Remember when I came in and you guys thought it was about my prac and my folio, and I went, holy moly. It is a major design project. It's a major design project, yeah. And there's a whole, like, massive parts of it that have been about the design, like the journey of this. And yes, there's a PSE at the end, but all I've really evaluated is the PSE at this point in time. What about the whole project? That's what can come out. That was an elbow I didn't need. That's what you can do in a personal evaluation. Yeah, so you can give your own take on the PSE. You can also give your own take on the entire like design project, and you know, go talk about, look, this is what I did really, really well. This is what I've improved on. This is what I changed for next time that didn't really work. And this is really what I've learned both about myself, both about my role as a designer. Like go to the nines. If you have more page, like if you have the page limit, go for it. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to stop the recording now.